In this video, we will reveal our Week 11 NFL team power rankings. We're going to talk about them in tiers, make some sense of this crazy NFL season, and that's all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Wiley.
And I'm Eric Lee, and we are the Fantasy Football Consultants. Michael, this is a bit dicey to have a NFL prediction show in a season that's been the most unpredictable we've had. So we're going to get some help. We're going to bring in our resident NFL expert. We usually save him for the postseason, but we're bringing him on early. It's Aaron Dean. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks, fellas. I really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to this, and it's kind of fun to jump in here a little earlier than normal. So let's get right to it.
So good to have you, Aaron. Welcome. And I really think we need the help. This has been a crazy season. I think I don't know what's going to happen from week to week. What a rough year it's been for the Survivor players. I'm not sure if any Survivor Leagues has anyone left. And I think it's going to be a challenge to really talk through what we think is going to happen, because that's part of what we're going to do here with our predictions. So let's go ahead and pull that up and start talking about it. We're looking, as you can see here, we've already tiered a couple of the groups. We weren't going to spend too much time talking about some of these bottom tier groups, but we'll say a few words about them, and then we'll move on to our top 14 and give some more specifics. But Eric, I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about this bottom tier, some of the things that these teams have in common. Maybe share a few things. We'll chime in and we'll go from there. Eric?
Yeah, don't send us letters, but we have ranked the cities of Pittsburgh at 25 all the way down to Houston at dead last at 32. Boy, just besides just being a major disappointment, the other thing that all these teams have in common, a lot of them at least, they may be looking for new head coaches next year. And we all agree on this. None of these teams have, all of them, 0% chance to win the Super Bowl. I think the one thing you can do in Survivor is pick against Houston. The Raiders have been a disappointment, but no bigger disappointment than the Denver Broncos. So that's our bottom tier.
Yeah, and it's kind of nuts, right? I mean, even like looking at, Atlanta and Carolina, they're actually in playoff contention because of the divisions they're in. The Lions just beat two quality teams the last couple of weeks. It's really been a nutty season, but I think we all agree that this tier deserves to be in the bottom. The next tier we have, starting with the Bears at 20 and going to the Colts at 24, includes the Bears, the Browns, the Rams, the Jags, and the Colts. And while some of these teams may be in playoff contention, namely the Colts and the Jags in that really weak AFC South historically, I think that we can all agree that these teams also really have no chance. Even our Rams, look how the mighty have fallen, not really having a chance of being a Super Bowl contender or even probably winning a playoff game if they sneak it into the playoffs. This tier is pretty bad as well.
It's amazing, Michael, that we did this week as opposed to 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I might disagree, but boy, does things change when you don't have Cooper Kupp anymore. So the Rams already had problems even before with an offensive line, poor play, and Matthew Stafford. But what a huge fall, Aaron, by the defending Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, you think Les Snead would like some of his draft capital back? I mean, that's going to hurt for the next few years. So this whole get rid of all your first 3 rounds worth of draft picks is going to come back, I think, to haunt them a little bit.
Yeah. So what about that next tier, Aaron?
Yeah, so I mean, you got the Jets kicking off down there at the 15th spot with the Cards, racking it up at the end of the 19th spot. Really, all 5 of these teams could really be interchangeable, to be honest with you. To me, the most impressive piece out of these 5 teams is the Jets and the job that Robert Saleh is doing there. It took him a year to develop the culture, but that defense has really been wrecking some teams. So their offense obviously is a little less to be desired, but it's all about defense, right? Especially in the playoffs. If you got a good defense, you could go a long way.
And can you believe these Green Bay Packers? I mean, they last year were the top team in the NFC, going into the playoffs. And Aaron Rodgers had that bad week 1 last year and the bad week 1 this year. And folks thought, okay, yeah, he lost Devonta Adams. Has that really been such a huge change? Well, I don't know what's going on in Green Bay, but it's been an absolute disaster. It's kind of crazy to see some of these teams in the same tier as one another.
Michael,
I
I think.
want to
Oh, go
throw
ahead.
something out with the New York Jets. It just feels like I'm sure we will get hate mail from New York because this Jet team is 6-3. I mean, they're tied with Michael and I's at the beginning of the season Super Bowl pick in the Buffalo Bills. We'll see where we slate the Bills on this at this point. But what do you guys think? How would you address the hate mail we're going to receive with New York being down at 15?
They got no quarterback, right? And they just lost their best offensive player in Hall. So at the end of the day, as much as you would like to say it's a good story, it really is. Don't get me wrong. And they nailed their draft, right? So at the end of the day, this isn't the year for the Jets, but as a fan base, they got to be just purely elated. They're playing well.
I think you said it right. That Breece Hall injury was a big deal. The future is bright for New York, but it's at least another year away. So, Eric, you want to go ahead and walk us through that next tier and some of your thoughts from 14 up to 10?
Yeah, at 14. Oh my gosh. Who made this list? We've got Seattle at 14. 13 is the New York Giants. At 12 is the LA Chargers, and then we've got the Dallas Cowboys. So and I guess wrapping up the tier, at the top of the tier is the Tampa Bay Bucks. Okay, here's the deal, folks. We're getting into the situation where I would call these long shots to win the Super Bowl. Everything has to fall in place. But the team that I think has the best chance in this tier is the LA Chargers and the Dallas Cowboys, mostly because they've had their share of injuries, and we're going with their potential, guys. I honestly do not like the chances. Again, I feel like I'm disrespecting the whole state of New York because I know the Giants are 7-2, but for a 7-2 team, Aaron, are they a paper tiger?
Well, I'll just say this, that they're a product of their coaching staff, and Dable has been amazing. So look at Buffalo and Josh Allen kind of regressing this year. And then you take that and the flip side and you look at Daniel Jones, and, they're just asking him not to mess it up, right? And just lean on Saquon Barkley. And the defense has been playing really, really strong. So they can make some noise, but are they truly a Super Bowl contender? No, not this year. They're not good enough at the most important position. And to me, that's quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about defense is really what allows you to stick around when maybe you don't have the other pieces there. We talked about that with the Jets. I think the same thing is definitely the case with those Cowboys. Their defense has been very strong. The Chargers, I don't even really want to talk about the head coaching decisions that are made, but their defense is capable, and they've had some injuries. They've survived some of those injuries. No chance of winning that division, but coming out of wild card there, I do think that makes them the strongest contender there with the Cowboys. I gotta agree. Tampa Bay just, I know they probably have the easiest road to win their division of all these teams. But it's been a kind of a real cluster in what's going on in Tampa Bay. So let's move on to the next tier. Coming in at 9 is for us, the Tennessee Titans. Then at 8, Minnesota Vikings. Then you got the Miami Dolphins. And then at 6, the Cincinnati Bengals. And finally at 5, the Baltimore Ravens, who I think really are clearly, in my opinion, the most dangerous of all the teams here because of what they could do on the offensive side. I mean, Lamar Jackson has really been pretty bad in terms of how he's hit his targets. And they still are been basically potentially double-digit winners on every team they've played, even the 3 they lost. But their defense is not. We've been talking about all these defenses. Their defense is not as strong. I think that's kind of a pretty consistent theme throughout here with this group. Cincinnati, a stronger offense than defense. Minnesota, a stronger offense than defense. The Dolphins, on the other hand, doing it on both sides of the ball. It's kind of surprising everybody on the offensive side. That's kind of what has them in this tier. And Tennessee, Mike Vrabel doing a whole lot with a lot of injuries, kind of more than any other team, save maybe the Niners, and really keeping this team afloat, who really should walk away with their division. So while I think that they're not going to be the number 1 seed, remember, guys, this was the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. I think that they're going to have a tough time getting it all the way through. But I think we got this tier pretty good. Any comments, Eric?
Yeah, I've got a comment. I see all these teams having a possibility to make the Super Bowl, except for the Tennessee Titans. I personally would not have put them in this tier. I would elevate either the Chargers or the Cowboys, but I get it. Like Michael said, they're 2 up on their division because their division sucks. So they'll get a home playoff game. But what happens when they face one of these offenses that can put points on the board? Like there's a ton of them in the AFC, whether you're talking about Kansas City or Buffalo or Miami or even the Bengals. And you're going to have Tennessee's going to have to pass the ball to try to catch up. They absolutely can't. Their only chance is to control the game from ahead. When they get behind, it's pretty ugly.
I'll tell you, Eric, it's the year of the underdogs, and the underdogs are cleaning house at Vegas. And at the end of the day, Tennessee, for whatever reason, their head coach, Mike Vrabel, is amazing. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how great the team is offensively, they find a way to shut you down. And they've had some cluster injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but they'll get healthy at the right time. And they seem to do it the last 3 or 4 years. They'll go up against a team that's far superior offensively, and they seem to shut them down and win. So I don't count out the Tennessee Titans, but for me, my biggest bang for my buck, if I'm putting money on a Super Bowl future right now, it's plus 1,300 at Baltimore Ravens. At the end of the day, don't be surprised if Odell Beckham Jr. finds his way onto the Baltimore Ravens and they run they run the double tight end set with a really impressive rookie, Isaiah Likely, and Mark Andrews getting healthy. And then they throw Odell Jr. on top of that. They might be pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah, but they're going to have to make some changes on the defensive side. And I think that's what kind of sets this last tier apart. Aaron, why don't you talk about this last tier?
If I can just put one comment, because there are people from Minnesota who are screaming at their iPhone and their computer that how can we have the team that is 8-1 who just beat the Buffalo Bills, who we haven't ranked yet. So we know that the Buffalo Bills are in our top tier. Who just added TJ Hawkinson, which I think makes their offense so much stronger, along with Jefferson and Thielen and a very good Dalvin Cook. It's just a question of, will Kirk Cousins come to play come playoffs, which he's had struggles in the past. Here's the bottom line. I think Minnesota has an excellent chance, no disrespect to Philadelphia, to get home field throughout. In the NFC, which is very winnable in the NFC. There's no powerhouse teams there. So I would have bumped them at least higher than the Bengals and Ravens.
That's a fair comment. I mean, but the last time I checked, all playoff games are primetime games. So at the end of the day, our boy Kirk Cousins, he doesn't like primetime games. So
I
couldn't resist. I'm sorry. I was going to
shout out. Did you like that? And the answer is in prime time. No, we did not like that, Kirk.
Yeah, no, I think the comment's fair, Eric, and obviously home field makes a big makes a big effort, and also the fact that they'll have that bye, which only one team gets now with the changes that they made. But let's talk about that top tier. I think that the difference is they have it going on both sides of the ball.
I mean, number 4 is, for me, it's Philly. And really the only reason why I think they're so dominant in the trenches on both sides of the ball. But really at the end of the day, teams with elite defenses find ways to take your best part of your game away. And to me, that's Jalen Hurts' legs. And they will force him to beat him with his arm. And he does have weapons to do that. But I just have a feeling that some of these other teams are just going to play a little bit better.
All right.
And so number 3 for me would be San Francisco 49ers. And to be honest with you, I would argue they're my number 1 team, but you can't realistically put them there just yet. But I think that this team is getting healthy on the right side of the ball, which is defense. And this team, the defensive front is the best in all of football, and they just hammer the quarterbacks. And that's what makes their defensive backfield so good at getting the ball and ball hawking that and getting turnovers and creating more opportunities for the offense. But you throw in Christian McCaffrey, you throw in a healthy Deebo Samuel, a healthy Elijah Mitchell. And Kyle Shanahan's already proven to you, he doesn't mind running the ball, 85 times and letting Jimmy only throw it 6 in a playoff game. He's already done that once before. The next one then obviously is Kansas City.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, they still haven't quite got the offensive line down yet, but that can change. I mean, at the end of the day, they still have a healthy Patrick Mahomes. And to me, this was just a toss-up. At the end of the day, they both have kind of weak running games, but for some reason, I kind of trust Buffalo, and more so just because Josh Allen will run for 100 yards if he has to, and not very many teams will shut that down. And I just kind of have a feeling that they might get over the hump this year if they can kind of just get some consistency and not try to play hero ball and just try to deal a little bit better on the game management side of things.
Couple comments here. So I think the reason Buffalo is my number 1 as well is because they're just so strong on both sides of the ball, right? They're not only an elite defense, but they're elite on the offensive side, kind of both ways. Kansas City, you could say there's some holes, not just with their run game, but with their defense. The Niners, we talked a little bit about the hole at the quarterback position. And the Eagles, I think a team like the Niners, like you say, could find a way. Although I think Kyle Shanahan still has yet to prove that he's, the top coach in the league, which maybe this is his year, if you're right. So I like this ranking. I think the Niners certainly don't belong here quite yet, but we're talking about what we think is going to happen through the rest of the season. So I know, especially with some of the trades that just happened down there, why we're talking about them in this tier. Eric, let's hear from you. I know you're not necessarily 100% in agreement with this tier.
Well, the Niners are behind the Seahawks. I don't understand why the Seahawks are all the way in the third tier and the Niners are in the first tier. I had to say it as a big Seahawks fan, but I am realistic, folks. I'm fine in the tier that the Seahawks are in. I am agreeing at the top spot. And I know that's going to surprise a lot of people, right? We didn't just look at the records and put I mean, the Bills are in second place at 6-3 behind the Miami Dolphins. So I get it. But I just think that the Bills, those 3 losses have all been super close that they have lost. And I really think a lot of times you have to be there and almost fail and have those playoff lessons before you fight through. Josh Allen has had that experience. I think this is the year he gets over the hump. And I think the team that's going to stand in his way is Kansas City. We had that unbelievable playoff game last year. I think so. I actually agree. Buffalo and Kansas City is going to be the AFC Championship game, and whoever wins that game is going to win the Super Bowl. Where I disagree with you is I'm not convinced with the other two teams, the Niners and the Eagles, will be in the NFC. I think it's pretty wide open, but I give Minnesota just as good a chance as Philadelphia and San Francisco.
See, for me right now, I think San Francisco is my most favorite bet at plus 850 to win the Super Bowl. I just, man, I love their defense. And when they are healthy, there is really no team that gets after a quarterback like the Niners. And that just, to me, if you have a front four, it sets the entire tone for the game. But really, the Bills, like you mentioned, they've got 3 losses, and all 3 losses, you can argue, are self-inflicted wounds. So for me, that's the biggest thing with the Bills. Are they going to be able to overcome the self-inflicted wounds? And if they do, nobody's stopping the Bills.
So there you have it. Those are our those are our 6 tiers, and our basically our top 14 teams ranked in order, or top 32 if you want to look through the whole list here.
Aaron, thanks so much for joining us. We want to hear from you guys. If you like this type of show, we'll do another one in 3 or 4 weeks.
Until next time, everybody stay safe.
We'll put on the screen now our most recent DraftKings and FanDuel shows.